Hi kids. It's the middle of winter. It's about 45 degrees out today, and I'm trying to educate myself on axles. What makes a good axle? What makes a crap axle? This is what it sounds like over here on the CV joint. So you grab this and twist back and forth. You hear that? How much play that has? So I put an AutoZone axle on, and it's making a different noise. It kind of sounds like a wheel bearing going out. So I decided to back up a little bit, and I bought this axle from Junkyard, but it doesn't have that rattly crap in it. Now, like I said, I'm no expert on axles, but every time I check axles, what I do is I turn the hub and look for play back there. I look for my hub to turn and my axle to not turn. I'm not really seeing a lot of that. What I do get is a little in and out movement, but it's supposed to do that, right? I just don't know where all that noise is coming from. But since I have an axle, we're just going to swap it. This really is not a very hard job. Let's see how long it takes me. We're going to start by pulling the speed sensor this time. Maybe the first time I've ever removed a strut where I didn't destroy speed sensors. I've got this big monstrous impact. If you don't have this, use your, what is this, 36mm socket. Pop the little center Honda logo out of your wheel. Put your wheel back on, lower it down, and use a big breaker bar, cheater bar, and all of that. And that should probably help you get it loose. You know, all those times I've told you to turn your impact down to nothing? Well, now we're going to turn it up to everything. Full send. That axle's not even hard in there. All right, now that we've got the axle bolt loose and in our bucket, let's get these 19mm bolts out. Now we're all loose. Let's get this axle wrestled out of here. I am going to take my brake line loose, just because I don't want to argue with it. Oh, that sucked. This bracket that holds the brake line on is a 12mm. We're going to break out this little tiny wrench that I bought from Harbor Freight. Loose. You could take the caliper loose if you wanted to, but I'm not seeing a need to. Let's try and pull that axle out of the hub. So this is the wrestling portion of the film. Now I have to get this out of there. That takes. It's just a matter of just manhandling it. All right, so here we are under the car. You can tell because, you know, you can tell. There's the back side of the hub. You're going to be tempted probably to try to pry against this joint right here and pop this out. That makes sense, except for the fact that this piece here is aluminum, and if you pry on it, the aluminum's going to give before the steel will. There's a snap ring in here, or a C-clip, or whatever you want to call it, some kind of spring ring on the end of this spline that holds this together. And all we've got to do is exert enough force on this CV joint to pop that loose, and then it's just going to slide out. So I'll see if I can get a good video of how I'm doing this. All I'm gonna do is take a punch, put it against the edge of this hub, and smack on it a little bit, and it'll eventually pop out, and then it'll just come right out. It's more a technique than brute strength or anything like that. So let's see if I can get it to come loose. Now to do this, I'm using my pickle fork and my big ass hammer. It's not easy to get enough room sitting on the ground here to swing this, but let's try it anyway. There we go. All right, that ought to just pull out now. Boink, there we go. Axle relief. And just by looking at these three side by side, you should be able to see a massive difference. I know I can. This one, look at the hub. It doesn't have these lobes on it. It has a dust guard. That's nice. The other two don't, so I wonder if that's needed. And if you look at this other end, look how small that is, and it's tapered. It doesn't have the bulk and the weight that that this one that I know is a Honda part has. So I don't know, maybe that's where all my noise is coming from. It may just be a smaller, more rattly gizmo. Now let's look at the play in it. You can hear that. I don't know how much of that noise is wear and how much of it is just lack of grease. It really shouldn't be lacking for grease because the boot's in pretty good shape. This is the one I just took off. It's been on there, I don't know, 6 months or so. It's got a little play, not near as bad as that one. This one barely has any at all. So I'm expecting big things out of this axle. This axle cost me about 60 bucks. It's a junkyard part. This one was about 70 bucks. It's new, but it appears to be a piece of crap. So let's put this in and see what we get. So our spline looks decent. Our clip is in place. Let's go ahead and install our junkyard axle. Get in there. There we go. Now let's make sure that it's actually locked in. You can't just pull it off. Now comes the fun part of wrestling all this back together. First things first, we have to compress this as much as possible and get the nose of this spline shaft into the hub. This is kind of a three-finger dance here. Strut bearing's gone out. That's good. Quick show of hands, kids. Who knows what this is? Some of you do. Some of you don't. That's a spud wrench, which is an adjustable wrench on one side and a little bit of a pry bar on the other. And I love the things. My years in industrial mechanical work has made me very fond of them. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's one of these. Pointy on one end, adjusty on the other. Oh, see, it's really good for helping you line up bolts, which is what we're doing now. If you're up to manhandling this stuff, sorry to keep being sexist, but that's the word I know for it. If you're up for brutalizing this thing, how about that? Changing out struts and axles and stuff isn't that tricky, guys. it's more a physical wrestling match than it is any kind of skill. There you go, you stupid sucker. Whew. All right, those are started. Now we get our precision alignment tool. Put our great big nuts on. Actually, before we go bananas, let's get this axle nut started. There's plenty of time to go bananas later. I can already tell you, this spline fits in this hub tighter than that aftermarket one did. Now our brake line. And our ABS sensor, whatchamacallit here. How's that go? There, goes like that, right? Alright, that's everything hooked up and ready to go, boys and girls. Last thing to do is give her the old test run. Let's see if she sounds any better or any worse. I don't know if you can hear that, but the noise that I'm complaining about is still there. And it's definitely like a wheel bearing type noise. Side axle. I'll get a driver's side, put that in, see what happens. But it definitely did not fix the issue I was looking to fix, so it doesn't sound bad. It's a good axle, but it tells me that the noise is not the axle. So my cheese ball AutoZone axle, even though it looks very different, probably fine. I'll save it. This car has 277,399 miles. Now with that many miles, of course there's all kinds of issues it could be. Could be wheel bearings, could be the intermittent shaft bearing. The thing that it could also be that would worry me the most is the transmission. You guys may know last year I had a junkyard transmission put in it. We put new fluid in it when we did that, put new seals in it. But I think the next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and do a flush on that. It's a manual transmission, but still, I don't know how long it sat in the junkyard or what kind of conditions it was in. So I think I'm going to go ahead and drain and refill the transmission and make sure that I don't have something going out in there. And then we're going to move on to the driver's side axle, and if that doesn't cure the problem, we'll look at wheel bearings and the intermittent shaft. I really don't mind replacing all this stuff because it allows us all to learn a little bit about the car. And with 377 plus thousand miles, most of it needs to be changed anyway. A lot of it's original equipment. It ain't gonna hurt to change it. Anyway, till next time, this is Clint Searcy saying like and subscribe, scavenger type. See you next time.